I didn't necessarily have a medium or a platform to put it out. So I think that in a way poetry kind of chose me.
Honestly, same.
Yeah?
Same answer. No, I'm joking. No, it will be easier.
I love that. I felt really smart for a second.
Well, I think this is the same. I mean, I've been painting since I'm a kid, but I never studied art, so I used to be a business consultant. That was actually my last job, and I quit 7 years ago. So I studied. Yeah, I have a master's degree in supply chain management, which is
Master's degree in supply chain management.
yeah, which is a bit boring.
Yeah.
And I used to be a consultant, a business consultant, and I just quit my job. Yeah,
That's an interesting story.
I get that
So,
though, because I also left my corporate job.
that's good. How
Yeah.
did you feel about it?
It was an easy decision to make for me, but I think for a lot of people it confused them because they're like, you have this great job, you're set for life. It's cushy, it's comfortable. It wasn't for me. It wasn't enough. Like I always felt like there was another calling. There was something else I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I get that kind of leaving the corporate world and
So what
doing
was that
something
moment like for both of you? Like, for example, in your case, you had studied supply chain management, you were in business and consulting. That's a big, bold move to just...
Yeah, I got so much sign actually in my life because I used to have this job in New York. I was a supply chain manager for a French company, and I was asking myself what I'm doing here. Like actually, like okay, now I'm like supply chain manager. That would be what the plant manager then, and then I'm like, and then what you become?
You had a vision and you just didn't like the way it was going.
Yeah, it was just boring, and actually they fired me. And yeah, it was cool actually, like almost 10 years ago. And
That was convenient.
Yeah, no, it was.
I mean, it worked out well for you.
Yeah, it was November 9th, 2007. It was a Friday. The big boss called me and he told me actually, he told me, Mr. My real name is, okay, anyway, I'm not gonna say my real name. My real name is Fawzi Khalifi. So he said like, Mr. Khalifi, I think it's time for you to move on. He don't told me like, you made a mistake or we're not happy. He said, it's time for you to move on. And
it's not really firing you, it's kind of encouraging you to leave.
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhere in between.
Yeah, and then I found this new job in Montreal as a consultant. So I went there and same. I just felt I was like, actually, this is not for me, and I quit. But the funny story is when I was when I did my master, when I applied to do my master in France, we did a kind of psychological test, and when I got accepted after we started the year, like they brought this kind of psychologue. You know, who like interpret my results and and say like, this is, I mean, your profile is not for this. You're like a creative person. What are you doing here? So like I get all those little hints, you know, like telling me like what I'm doing here.
And so then, but what was that moment? Must have been a moment that you just...
I mean, I was always painting, you know, like on the side. So during the weekend and slowly actually like, you know, thanks to Mark Zuckerberg. What's his name?
Yeah,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Thanks to social media, like you have a way to show your work. Like, you know, for me, was just sitting with my friend on my Facebook almost 10 years ago, and then, you know, just like grew up and people sharing and reposting and stuff like that. And then you have people just reaching you out, like saying, yeah, man, you know, we're having this event, we'd like you to come and paint. And then you just get people interested in your work, and then you realize that you start making money. You know, people say, oh, what's your fee? I did not have a fee.
I usually just tell them to feed me.
Yeah, no, me, I remember the first time somebody invited me, I was in Montreal, they wanted me to come to Chicago. I was like, yeah, I'm willing to, I pay, tell me which date, I pay my flight ticket. You know, because for me it was like just crazy that somebody asked me to come, you know, and then you start making a bit of money, and then you make actually almost the same money as a
job.
You know, as a job, and then like actually if I'm like working only on the weekend and at night, so maybe I should focus 100% on this, and you just make this leap of faith. And
so was it kind of, you were building momentum in terms of an audience on social media, and then eventually just transitioned out?
Yeah, but it was not thought when you think of it, like 10 years ago, it was not like that.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm doing this because I like it, and now there's an opportunity. And now today I think it's, I don't know if you feel the same way, but if people calculate this, oh, I'm doing this, maybe I want to do this so I can get this. I think was more organic.
Yeah, it's very tactical nowadays.
And now it's like everybody want to think everything, and sometimes like you should just leave it.
Just go with the flow kind of thing.
Was it the same for you though? Because you had the same kind of experience.
It was. I mean, when I look back, there were a lot of signs, but I feel like you never take them seriously. You don't look at them as part of something bigger. And so for me, it was more about what am I meant to do? And I knew I wasn't meant for a desk job. I knew I wasn't meant to be doing what I was doing. I
What
knew
you were
that
doing? Tell us more about it.
Oh, you don't want my corporate story. I used to work in the education sector, and so I did a lot of events. I did a lot of PR. I did a lot of stuff. And what's funny is I was actually talking to the students at this university yesterday, and I said, you know, the problem is that we put people in these boxes and we tell them you study this major, these are your career options. And so for me, it was discovering that there are actual other options, and it's particularly difficult for a creative person, because someone who does poetry or someone who's artistic, I think that society looks at them and says, okay, well, you want to be a poet, you can be a poet, but you have to be a poet in addition to whatever else it is that you do, in addition to your job.
Right.
And so for me, that had been drilled into my head, because you do go through that, you know, you get that mentality. So I was thinking, okay, I want to be a poet, I want to be a performer. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? How am I going to sort of figure this out? And I'm one of these people that is, when I write poetry, there's usually a message, there's usually something in it. It's not one of those, you know, kind of the poetry fell from the sky kind of things. And so I know that I'm a socially conscious artist, and how am I going to bring all of this together, and how am I going to make other people believe in it? And so there were all of these signs, but I just didn't realize that it was part of something bigger. And you know, alhamdulillah, after I left my job, it's been difficult, but it's been nothing but up. And there's a self sort of awareness that comes with it, and it's incredibly, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure it's the same for you, but it's incredibly rewarding.
What was do you remember a first kind of performance that you did, or that would have given you?
One wants me to talk about my old job, and one wants me to talk about my first performance.
Well, we wanted to hear
We
about
only
the
get the
job.
hard questions
Now
here.
we want to really transition into your work, actually. We were just interested in how you came to this, but really what we would love to focus on now is your work and both your work. So what was the first, do you remember, was there an initial performance you did that you knew that you were going to do this professionally?
I knew that I was going to do it, that I wanted to do it professionally. I just didn't know that I could do it professionally. Because again, you kind of have this idea of, okay, well, I don't want to sell out, I don't want to become commercial, I don't want to do this, but you also want to make a living off of your craft. My first performance scared the living daylights out of me, and I cringe thinking about it now. You know, it was one of those I'm going to change the world kind of poems, and this is what's wrong with the world, and this is how we need to change it, and it was nerve-wracking. I mean, I think about it now, and I look at it in terms of the aesthetics and the technical side, and I could have done so much better. But I feel like the essence is still there. That's still very much me. It's poetry with a message, with something behind it. I mean, even yesterday I did this love poem about my relationship with food.
Okay.
And so I stood up
That one is a good one.
I told
definitely.
people, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna do a love poem, and I could see it in their faces. They're like, you know, she's gonna talk about some epic tragedy that happened, and I get up and I start talking about my relationship with food. And people are laughing, and then halfway through the poem, there's this silence, and there's this line that says, I want to cover all the mirrors in the house because I can't stand looking at myself in them. And then there's a stark silence, and it's in that. Those are the moments that I love, the moments that make people think about things. And so I feel like that essence, even in a particularly funny poem, is still there, and it was there in the beginning, and I think it's going to be there throughout, you know, my artistic journey.
It was there in the beginning, but you also said you had to kind of develop your confidence for public performance. Is that what it was, or?
It wasn't really confidence of being on stage. I think I've always been comfortable being on stage, but it was more about confidence in my ability to give a good performance. It wasn't about getting up and talking in front of people. I used to, you know, do it for a living, but it's about knowing that I can do it, and knowing that the only obstacle between me and what I want to do is me.
I see.
And that's still, I mean, I'm still constantly learning that.
What's interesting is that, like, a lot of the messages that you try to put out with your poetry also resonates in Al-Seed's work. Like, you try a lot to impact change, and so how does that impact your own life? Like, how do you decide that this is the topic I want to discuss with this piece?
Actually, it depends. There's like many topics that I want to speak about, and sometimes like you don't find the right opportunity. Um, but there is an impact because every project that I do has, has beyond the piece of art and the artistic challenge. There is like this human experience, and that's what is cool about painting on the public space, except on this picture actually. Like there's always somebody around, like this one is like this one in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But you always have somebody around, you always have people like who are intrigued and want to know what's going on. And because I really want to connect, my work with the people, that's how you create a connection, and always I say this to people, art is just a pretext because, for example, if I take this project we did last year in Egypt, we painted like this whole neighborhood of the Cairo garbage collectors. And if you go to somebody's house and you knock at his door and you say like, look, can I be your friend? And can you serve me you just tell him like, can you serve me a cup of water tomorrow? And after 2 days you serve me like a cup of tea, and then in 3-4 days I sit down with you and we drink another tea. After a week you invite me for lunch in your house, and in 2 weeks we play soccer with your family, and 3 weeks we go to a wedding, and then in 1 month when I leave, like you just cry. And then the guys say like, you're crazy. But if you come to a guy and you say like, look, I'm an artist, I would like to paint your house, the first day we look at you weird, and then the second day we say, can I take a bottle of water? And then we say like, come drink tea with me. And then you start talking, and they invite you for lunch after a week. And that's what really happened. And most of the time this is what you get, like you go to places, you don't know anybody, and you just wait for the surprise. And that's the cool thing, like you're looking for this kind of unique emotion, unique experience. And that's what actually made me want to keep what I'm doing. It's just because of this, like I have my studio here in Dubai, which is cool, but this is not what I enjoy the most. It's cool to paint in the studio, but when you go outside in the street and you meet people and you create a dialogue, and sometimes you raise topics that even the people from the community don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
It becomes interesting, and you leave a mark, and actually people they leave a mark in your life, and actually this is what like stays, because most of the piece that you see, like even in the pictures, like not those canvases, but they at some point they disappear. They just get erased.
When they're in the public space?
Either they vandalized, either like something happened to it, it fade.
Yeah.
But what stays is all those memories, and for me this is what is important.
Definitely, yeah. Tell us more about the project in Egypt, because I heard your TED talk about it before. Okay. So it's a very interesting project. Yeah. So
actually, it's a project we did in 2016 inside the neighborhood of the Cairo garbage collectors. So it's a community of 70,000 people who, for decades, pick up the garbage of Cairo, bring it to the neighborhood, sort it, and then recycle it, and develop the most powerful recycling system of the world. So they recycle more than 80% of what they collect. It's mostly a Coptic Christian community, and so they have pigs to recycle the organic waste, and they sell the pigs for the meat. And in 2009, Hosni Mubarak slaughtered like 300,000 pigs using
in case anyone's wondering.
That's from the side. Yeah. And he slaughtered those like 300,000 pigs using the H1N1 pretext, and people were living from that, so it killed their livelihood. And so I heard like about them at this time, and in 2015 I was just thinking of them, and I'm like, let's go paint something in this poor and ugly neighborhood. That's what I had in mind. And I get so much like stereotype. I thought those people were living in the garbage, and when we arrived there, actually they were living from the garbage. That was just their job. And then we realized actually that the garbage was not coming from them, but coming from outside. And the funny thing is, in Cairo they call them the Zabbalin, which means the people of the garbage. Yeah. But them inside the neighborhood, they call the Cairo people the Zabbalin. They say the garbage is coming from them.
Yeah, exactly.
So the whole piece is a piece that we call an anamorphic piece. So you need to stand in one point on the top of a mountain, and actually from this exact point you can see the full piece. And yeah, it covers actually more than 56 facades. I cover like 300 meters. And the quote that I used, the message that I wrote, was a quote from a Coptic bishop from the 3rd century that says, anyone wants to see the sunlight clearly, you need to wipe his eyes first. So, yeah.
That's very interesting.
Thank you.
So is there, like, Afra, for you, is there a piece that you really feel like you're connected to? Like, you wouldn't mind like reciting it over and over again.
And actually, she would like you to recite a poem if you
that
don't
would
mind.
that would be very nice.
Sure.
Since it's an audio, because it's audio podcast, we can't. It's harder to show your work. But since it's easier for us to hear what
Yeah,
your
I
poem.
think, I mean, there are certain pieces that I connect with on different levels. I mean, they're all deeply personal. There's one in particular which I did yesterday. It's a poem called Jara, and Jara is the Arabic word for the sail of a boat. And the piece is Jara it's an entrepreneurship center in Sharjah, and they approached me and said, we would like you to write a poem for us about entrepreneurship. And I was kind of taken aback, and I was like, I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. And then through that poem, I realized that creatives are actually the ultimate entrepreneurs, because you have to be on your game 24/7. You have to be business smart. You have to still be artistic. You have to do all of your PR. I mean, you're basically a one person, a one person show.
Like an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I think that's why I relate to that piece. But more so than that, it's about all of the frustrations that the underdogs face. And I think doing what I do, I kind of feel that for some people I check all the boxes of stuff, because I'm a woman, I'm a performer, I check all those different boxes, and I feel like in a lot of instances I was the underdog. A lot of creatives are also underdogs, and so it's all of that frustration, but it's also a poem that I asked a lot of different people, a lot of different creative people, writers and different artists, what they felt like. And so I feel like this poem carries their voice. And so it's something I wrote, but it is very much an artistic community piece. So that's, I think, one of the ones that resonates the most. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Would you recite it?
Sure.
We'd love to hear
I
it.
need to stand up, though. I can't do it sitting
Okay.
down.
Go ahead.
Should I face you
You
guys?
can face
or
them if you like, actually. If you
face
want
the crowd. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. If you hear something you like, snap. Because that's what they tell you to do. So,
Snap.
yeah. If you hear something you like, snap your fingers.
Oh,
It lets the performer know that you're doing a good job. That I'm doing a good job. Okay. So this is Shara. The fastest way to kill a poetry performance is to be generic. The fastest way to kill a dream is to suffocate it. Squeeze out every last breath, wedge it between the words realistic and unattainable, wrap it in blankets of self-doubt and tell it has no place here. Ostracize and outcast until no one recognizes its face or speaks its name. Kill off passion. Make sure that if the dream ever dares to show its face here again, the dream has no friends and nowhere to stay. So when they tell you, you can be anything you want to be. They mean something within reason, within the constructs of a society that dictates what is acceptable. Find a job that is acceptable. Silence your passion, watch your dreams, like a silent movie on repeat. When I tell them I'm a poet, when I tell them I am a poet, they look at me like a failed business venture. Sorry, we can't meet with you. Call us back when you have a stronger proposal. Poets and entrepreneurs both know convention is just convenience we use to convince ourselves that our dreams are worthless, that we are worth less than is customary, convicting us with no judge and a fact-lacking jury. Your Honor, I move to dismiss the notion of the continuous, quote, status quo. You can't quell my concern. Yes, you can direct quote me on that. Let's recap. They say they like my flow, but I know that it means that we object to this rejection. Let the record show we know it is never about the final destination. It is about how badly we want to get there. This is for people who want to get there. The underdogs, who know they can beat the odds when the deck is clearly stacked against them. These are people who know it can happen when muggles believe in magic. They look to new horizons like Frodo leaving the Shire, scared but determined. They are not misfits. They are perfectly placed apostrophes. The difference between Y-O-U apostrophe R-E and your this is about survivors like us, skin grown thick like armor, riding through life like a battlefield. We are knuckles bruised from knocking on doors that said they'd never open because our ideas were never good enough. But the same people rejecting us, the same people rejecting us are the same people who use the flower crown filter and forget that Snapchat was a startup. Those who stuff the makers of change like monsters in boxes in bedtime stories, forced to roam around under cover of darkness. The ones who forgot how sleep feels because their dreams are more important than rest. No wonder they say 2 a.m. was made for the artists. We know this is not the quickest way to become famous. It is about looking at what is and figuring out how to change it. It is about life slapping you across the face and you screaming back, I got this. This is me. This is me. Being asked to spell the word unnecessary. In the 6th grade spelling bee, replacing a C with an S, 2 S's with a C, tripping over my words, not seeing what I was saying, stuttering off the stage in shame and coming back. A slam queen. This is for him. Who knows his app can revolutionize the way we see business. Saves his allowance because investors won't take a chance on someone armed with just a dream and a business plan under the age of 19. This is for her. With a passion that can outshine the stars and a voice like an anthem. We've lost too many stars to this life's brutal clenched fist. This is not a motivational speech. This is a call to create communities of creators, engineers, of ideas. It is knowing that no amount of training and social conditioning can change what you believe in, so open your arms. Leave your hearts out like a welcome mat. Turn on the porch lights. It's been a starless night for far too long. Let the dreams know. Let the dreams know. It's time to come home. Assalamu alaikum.
I think hearing that gave me the same reaction I had yesterday, which is like chills all over. How do you, Alcide, hearing that, like how do you relate to it? Since it is like a poem about...
You know, my work is about words, you know, it's about messages, it's about writing, so I feel like my work and your work are connected in a way because me, I write messages, I use words, so my work, you know, despite the fact it's like you look at it as an abstract piece, but there's always a message behind it, so I wish sometimes I was a poet sometimes. I wrote one poem once, but that was a long time ago. Yeah.
You could be a poet.
I wish my dream would be this, but like a Arab poet, like, you know, you know.
See, I wish I could paint, so, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I teach you, teach me, you know.
There you go.
Okay.
With regard to your, and that was awesome, the public performance aspect of that, I mean, what is the difference between reading that and then hearing you perform it, in your opinion? Like, how important is the performance? Because I imagine it's a lot, right?
The performance is, I mean, it's supposedly it's 50% content and 50% performance, but I kind of feel like it's more performance because if you deliver even a poem that's not particularly good, but if you deliver it in a way that you can make people connect with it, you can make people believe in what you're saying, then you should, you know, have a good performance. But one of the things that I always get asked is, you know, people are like, oh, I love what you do. Are you going to write a book? You know, you should write a book. Are you published? And my first reaction is, publishing a book scares me to no end. Because I love being on stage, I love that connection with the audience, and for me it scares me that I would be on a page in a book and someone would be reading it and I'm not there to see their reaction, and I don't know how they're taking it. I don't know if they're laughing at my punchlines or if they're snapping or if they like it. I mean, it scares me in that way, but I feel like I'm a stage poet more than I'm a page poet. I feel like poetry is just the thing that I bring with me.
That's something you both have in common in a way, is that your work is in touch with the people. It's like a living thing. Your work is in public and your work is presented publicly. It's kind of interesting.
I think it's important. I don't know, me for example, just one point. It's important because everything you see, I think, for the next generation, like to have it, you know, immortalized on pages, I think it's important. I mean, it's the same, for example, my work, most of the people, they never saw it in front of them. They just saw picture of them. But if me, I say like, no, I don't want to take pictures, I want to make sure people comes and see it. You know, like, yes, you're taking off an emotion, but you don't...
You do want to leave something, that's true.
So you should do a book.
Okay. We'll write in the foreword. Alcide said we should write this book.
I mean, it's, I don't know. Like,
you could write the foreword.
I write the foreword.
Yeah.
I make a poem.
And so in talking about your work, you mentioned how you feel a kind of emotional connection to a place.
Yeah.
So then, and that's a very interesting concept. So why did you choose Dubai? What kind of...
Dubai choosing? No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like having you here. Now.
Thank you. No, actually, I came a few years ago to do art residency in Tashkil, and that's where I started developing my 3D work, all my sculpture. And then I left Dubai, and then I came back a few months later. Al Sarkal proposed me to open my studio here. Okay. So actually, it's quite a cool place, you know, to be. It's like in the center of Dubai, in a part of this kind of community, artistic community, which is growing. And And honestly, like I don't think I would be able to have like any place like I have here, like anywhere in the world. So it's like huge, and for me it's cool actually. Like I can work like on 10 things at the same time.
What is your most famous exhibition or public work you have in Dubai? I mean, you have the one in.
I did this thing in Green Planet. That's actually the funny thing. Like I've been coming to Dubai for now 7 years. Like first time I came was 2010, and the only time I painted here was last year on the Green Planet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then I have a piece in Ajman and Sharjah, so in the UAE. So, but it's I don't know, Dubai is more like a home, you know. It's not like people say, oh, but you paint in the street, and how come you live in Dubai? But it's not about painting in the street. Like I have my studio here, and I travel a lot, you know, for my art, and it's just like a base, you know. This is where I cut my onions. That's what I say.
I see.
Home is like where you cut onions,
This
right?
is true.
Right?
I love that. That's poetic,
Yeah.
actually.
Where you can cry freely while cutting onions.
Where nobody judges you while you're cutting the onions.
So, like, this is a question for both of you. What is, if you haven't achieved it yet, like, what is a dream project of yours?
Oh, I need to think about that.
I mean, I don't think there's a dream project. Actually, I'm living my dream right now. So everything that I do is like, I feel blessed and grateful, you know, like to be able to do what I'm doing. So it's not like, I wish. I saw you have so much wish. We have like, you know, like we have a list of projects that I think maybe we will never do, but it's still something that you have in your mind. You're like, and then when it happens, you know, you dream of it. You dream so much of it. Like Egypt, we dream so much of it that when it happens, like, okay, that was cool. You know, the day we finished, we went on the mountain and we look at it like. Me, I thought I was going to cry, and actually I was like, I'm so tired. I need to go home. You know, and that's it. But I think you live a dream, so you're always into.
Yeah.
You're always
The
in.
inspiration never stops, basically.
Yeah, inspiration stops. I mean,
Does it?
This. I mean, you know, this is. I don't know. Sorry to say this. Don't feel nothing personal, but you know, this inspiration thing sometimes for me is cheesy because people ask me, where do you get your inspiration? And they think that as an artist, I go to, you know, like I go to Kite Beach and I see it and I look at the sun and I'm like, the next idea is coming. Stuff like that. You know.
No, that's true. I get that too. People are like, what inspires you? And I'm like, I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, I think this is an idea that everybody has. You know, sometimes just like, I don't know. Me, I was drinking a coffee in my kitchen and Egypt came in my mind and that's it. And most of the time it's like that. Yeah, like we
But
did
that's
the
the
project.
thing though about artists. I feel like people see artists and they think that we have this kind of, that literally that inspiration falls from the sky and you're sitting there, you know, but it's...
It should be a man. I think for me it should be a person. Where did you find inspiration? I found him in the street. You know, you're like, yeah, I'm inspiration. We'd be funny.
I mean, I go through, like, I go through writer's block phases, but I assume that there's the equivalent for what you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not... Yeah, I mean, it's not... I don't know, I just feel like there's no energy. Sometimes I go to the studio and I'm like that, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go home. Because there's no point, you just don't do anything.
Yeah.
And now we have a piano in the studio and I don't know how to play piano, so I just pretend like I know to play. And I'm like, actually, I'm just wasting my time, so let me leave.
Yes.
But it's not like you're not productive. And I think social media like is such a lie because people want to make you feel that you're always doing something super interesting and there's always a super cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
And man, like seriously, you're not working on a super cool project every day and you're not like creating something super new that nobody ever saw like every day.
Yeah.
It's just a lie. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't say it's bullshit, but like I see something like, we're doing something crazy. Like, nobody is doing something crazy every day. This is not true.
Right.
You know, you have phases and sometimes like you're super inspired and sometimes there's nothing. You just like watch TV shows.
I totally agree.
So it's basically just like a job for you. Like, not
No,
a job, but
never.
like it's something that you're passionate about, but at the same time, it's the magic that everyone sees is not what you often experience. Like,
No,
for you,
there's a lot of, there is a struggle. There's like experimenting. Sometimes you try stuff and sometimes you try stuff you don't even know if it will work. Egypt, we had no idea that it was going to work. Seriously, like I never did this and I never saw somebody doing it. So there was not like a tutorial. Okay, you want to create an anamorphic, you know? And sometimes, people, look, I tell you the story of the Green Planet and I like to say it because I just want to break this thing. Green Planet people, they came and say, oh, this is genius. How did you think of making this? You know, like this wall, you look at it and then the color change depending where you stand, like the wall change of the color. Yeah. So if you go in the morning, it's white, you don't see the thing. And you know what is the story of this? I wanted to make a background in gray. I didn't have like a dark gray and light gray. The light was, no, I tell you the story. The light gray was too light, the dark was too dark. And then I said, like, let me try with silver. And I tried silver. It was nice because I did the wall in silver. And then it happened that the wall was not straight. So, like, depending on the sun, and I'm like, wow, how did you think of this? And it's just experimenting. You find yourself in a situation, you need to make a choice. I'm not going to do this, not this, I take this. It's a leap of faith, and sometimes it works. And I think when you do art, it's always like that. You cannot plan. And people say, oh, yes, I planned it, I'm a genius, I did. No. It's just bullshit. Like, seriously, it's not real. Like, you come, you make a mistake, and like you find something cool. It's like, how do you come out with this? I didn't come out with this. I just made a mistake. And most of the time, it's like that. You know, the post-it, the glue. The guy who created the glue, like this glue that you stick and unstick, he wanted to make a glue for planes, like, you know. And it was a mistake in the formula. There was a mistake, and this is the glue for the post-it. So it's always like that. It's just like you experiment, and then you face something, and you're like, oh wow, this is super cool. And I think this is how like life should be, because you cannot plan anything. I don't know.
It's also seizing the opportunity too, I think, creatively. So an accident happens, but then you have to have the sense to make that into an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how it goes. You know, like but sometimes you have coincidence. You know, like when we did this project in Egypt, my first idea was like, okay, we're gonna paint the calligraphy in white, and then we're gonna light it up with black light. The white will be fluorescent. And so we buy the fluorescent paint and everything. We run those huge black light projector, and we light the whole piece at the end of the project. And funny, like in Egypt, they have this expression that people say, but not as much as in Egypt, nawartuna. You know, like we did the project, every day said nawartuna, which means like you brought light to us. And then I'm like, shit, actually, like this makes so much sense, you know? And you know, like you plan something and then something happened there, like, and when I say shit, it's S-H-E-E-T.
Okay.